I feel like I said this last week, but this weekend might have been even crazier than last weekend's games. The top 25 is going to look entirely different in the next college football playoff rankings, and there were a number of teams who saw their playoff chances completely wiped out this weekend. There were also a number of other teams who saw their playoff chances really increase after a massive win. Before we get to today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. Also, I want to emphasize this isn't my top 25, those come out on Monday. There were a lot of people last week when I was talking about all the craziness from the weekend saying I didn't include a number of teams. Well, again, that's because this isn't my top 25, this is me talking about the biggest games of the weekend that had the most playoff implications. If you want to see my personal top 25, make sure to stay tuned tomorrow because that's when I always drop it. Alright, we're going to start at the top because number 1 Oregon, they were on upset watch for almost the entire game. They escaped with a 3-point victory on the road at Wisconsin. Now, I wasn't watching this game because I was watching a bunch of other ones, but I kept getting notifications that Wisconsin was kind of hanging around. Then at halftime, I saw that Oregon was actually trailing, and entering the fourth quarter, the Ducks were still down by a touchdown. But Oregon scored a touchdown early in the fourth quarter, and they kicked the go-ahead field goal late in the fourth quarter. Now, Oregon is probably still going to be ranked number 1 in the next batch of college football rankings, but if they would have lost to Wisconsin in this game, can you imagine how far they would have fallen? I mean, Wisconsin is 5-5, and the Ducks are the national championship favorite at the moment, so this would have been an ugly loss for the Ducks. Also, imagine what it would have done to the Big Ten conference standings. Things would have gotten a whole lot interesting considering Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State all would have had one loss in conference play. But the Ducks won, none of that matters, and Oregon is 1 win away from finishing the regular season undefeated. Another team that was also kind of on upset watch all game was Texas. They didn't trail at any point in this game, but they never were able to put Arkansas away. At halftime, Texas was only up 10-0, and entering the fourth quarter, they were up by only 6 points. After an Arkansas field goal early in the fourth quarter, the Longhorns had only a 3-point lead, and this was looking like it could go either way. Texas scored a quick touchdown and took a 10-point lead, and they were able to hang on. I've said this the last couple of weeks, but Texas just hasn't impressed me at all this season. The only time they played a good opponent, they got blown out, and the last couple of weeks, they just haven't looked all that good. Like I just said with Oregon, things would have gotten really interesting if Texas would have lost this game. They probably still would have been inside the top 12, but they'd be a borderline playoff team. But luckily for the Longhorns, they're still alive, they're 9-1, and they're still probably going to be ranked number 3 this week. This was a thrilling one late at night if you were staying up till 2 a.m. on the East Coast, but number 6 BYU's dream season came to an end. They fell at home to Kansas by 4 points. This was an ugly game from BYU as it was really a back and forth game, but they only scored 3 points over the final 39 minutes of this game. They also only scored 1 touchdown the entire way. Now, this was a Kansas team that entered the game 3-6, but yet BYU was only a 3-point favorite, so a lot of people were actually expecting Kansas to make this one interesting. Now, for BYU, this is a really ugly loss. I know I've personally been really high on them all year, mainly because 1, they were undefeated, and they also had a couple of really good victories. But now that Kansas State victory they had isn't looking all that great, and they have this ugly loss, I think BYU might be in jeopardy of falling outside the top 12 this weekend. Their chances of playing in the Big 12 title game also took a pretty massive hit as well. The game of the week was Georgia and Tennessee, with the loser likely falling out of playoff contention. Well, unfortunately for Tennessee, their chances look extremely difficult as they fall to Georgia by 2 scores. Now in the first half, this was a great game. Tennessee jumped out to a 10-0 lead, and at halftime, this game was tied. But Georgia's defense stepped up, and they held Tennessee scoreless in the second half, outscoring them 14-0. For Georgia, this is a massive win because considering they closed the season with UMass and Georgia Tech, they're probably going to win out, and they're probably going to secure a spot in the college football playoff. Tennessee, they finished with UTEP and Vanderbilt, 2 games they should win, but considering they are ranked number 7, I don't know how far they're going to fall in this game. They might still be in the top 12 after this weekend, but they're going to have a lot of things go their way if they want to secure a top 12 spot by the end of the year. Now, don't let the box score fool you in this game. Despite winning 42-21, Boise State was looking like they were going to be on potential upset watch. They were actually trailing 14-0 midway midway through the second quarter, and a lot of people were slowly starting to talk on Twitter about what's going to happen if Boise State somehow loses this game. Then, midway through the third quarter, they were still trailing by a touchdown, but over the final 21 minutes, Boise State outscored San Jose State 28-0. This was huge for Boise State because a loss would have really hurt their playoff chances, but with a win, they're probably going to sneak into the top 12 in the next batch of playoff rankings. Man, the more games I dive into, the more upset watches we had. SMU had a comfortable 10-point victory over Boston College, but they were actually trailing by a point midway through the third quarter. SMU was trailing 21-20, but they outscored Boston College 17-7 the rest of the way to pick up the massive win. SMU is really looking comfortable now to play in the ACC title game as they're still undefeated in conference play. They got to play Virginia and Cal to close the season, two teams that are 5-5, so I think SMU is probably going to win out. Now at this point, I still think for the Mustangs to reach the college football playoff, the only way that can happen is if they win their conference and get the automatic bid, because considering they're ranked number 14 this week, they might climb to number 13 or 12 in the rankings. Another loss at any point, that's going to completely wipe them out. Well, what do we have here? Now, I've been trying to tell everyone that's been watching my videos for the last month or so to pay attention to my Arizona State Sun Devils. Now, if you were a loyal subscriber, you could have taken that information and bragged to all your college football friends about how Arizona State is a team that we all really need to keep an eye on. And if you guys did that, you'd all be looking like absolute geniuses this weekend. Arizona State went on the road and took down number 16 Kansas State 24-14. Now, Kansas State made things a little bit interesting late in this game. Arizona State had a 24-0 lead. They kind of took their foot off the gas a little, let Kansas State come back into this game, but this was a dominating effort on both sides of the ball for the Sun Devils. Now, the crazy thing is, with BYU losing this weekend, Arizona State actually kind of controls their destiny to play in the Big 12 title game. They're currently 5-2 in conference play, so they're still behind BYU and Colorado. But Arizona State plays BYU next week, so with the win there, they'll own the tiebreaker over the Cougars, and then Arizona State finishes the season with Arizona, who has been pretty terrible this year. The tiebreakers are kind of weird, but I think Arizona State has to win out, and Iowa State has to lose a game, and if that happens, Arizona State's playing in the Big 12 title game. I also think there's another scenario where if Arizona State wins out, if Colorado loses a game, Arizona State is still playing in the Big 12 title. So the most important thing for my Arizona State Sun Devils, just win out, and you'll likely be playing in the Big 12 title game with a shot at reaching the college football playoff. Not bad, considering Arizona State was picked to finish dead last in the Big 12 this year. Washington State didn't really have a legitimate chance of reaching the college football playoff. A lot of things would have had to go their way, but considering they were ranked 18th, there was still a glimmer of hope. Well, that's been completely shattered as they got upset on the road by New Mexico, losing 38-35. Now, this was a game that Washington State was dominating as they were up 28-14 entering the half, but they were outscored 24-7 in the second half, and their chances of reaching the college football playoff are all but shot. Now, I still want to give a shout out to the Cougars because they are still 8-2 on the year. They could finish with 10 or 11 wins, so this season is still a massive success for them. Louisville didn't have a real chance of reaching the playoff as well, but considering they were ranked number 19, I guess there could have been a couple of scenarios that could have gone their way. They could have slid them in there, but their chances are completely shot as well as they fell on the road to 2-7 Stanford, losing on a game-winning field goal. Now, Louisville was looking like they were in control for most of this game. They were up at the half, they were up entering the fourth quarter, but they were outscored by 10 in the fourth quarter. Louisville's a weird team because they feel like they've been really good this year, but all of a sudden now they're 6-4, so get them out of the top 25. Boy, this one wasn't looking good for Clemson as they were trailing by 3 points with only a minute and a half left in this game. After scoring 17 points in the first half and having a comfortable lead, Clemson was being shut out in the second half, but with a minute left, Cade Klubnik saved their season as he rushed in a 50-yard touchdown to give Clemson the come-from-behind victory. Now, a loss here not only would have wiped Clemson out of the top 25, it likely would have wiped them out of ACC title contention as well, but they're still 7-1 in conference play, and there's still a chance they can play in the ACC title game and potentially go to the college football playoff with a win. I mean, seriously, we're at that point in the college football season where so many things can change with just one play. With a win, you're still technically alive in the college football playoff, but with a loss, you're completely eliminated from the playoff discussion. So Cade Klubnik, he's the hero because he's barely keeping Clemson alive. This was one of the best games of the weekend as number 21 South Carolina took down number 23 Missouri with a game-winning touchdown in the final minute. Now, this was a back and forth contest, especially in the fourth quarter. So entering the fourth quarter, South Carolina was up by 9 points. With 9 minutes to go, Missouri scored a touchdown that put them ahead by 1. Then with 5 minutes to go, South Carolina responded with a touchdown, putting them up by 5 points. With a minute to go, Luther Burden had a 37-yard touchdown to put Missouri ahead by 3, and that looked like it was going to be the dagger. But with 15 seconds to go, a Raheem Sanders touchdown gave the Gamecocks a 4-point lead and ultimately the victory. Now, South Carolina is a team that has essentially come out of nowhere this year. All of a sudden, they're 7-3. They're probably going to be ranked inside the top 20. When you look at their 3 losses, they have 3 quality losses. I mean, they've lost to LSU by 3, Alabama by 2, and they did get blown out by Ole Miss, but this is a really, really good team that also has a number of top 25 victories this year. Unfortunately, they don't have what it takes to make it to the SEC title game, and they probably don't have what it takes to make it to the college football playoff, but South Carolina has been one of the biggest surprises in all of college football this season. The final top 25 team that got bounced this weekend was LSU as they fell on the road to Florida. Man, it's been an absolute downfall for LSU over these last couple of weeks. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, they were ranked inside my top 10, and a lot of people thought they were legitimate playoff contenders. After losing in week 1 to USC, they had a 6-game winning streak, including some really good victories over South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Arkansas. But they've now lost 3 consecutive games, and they looked pretty terrible in all 3 of those games. So LSU, you had us in the first half, but I think we saw what your true colors were in the second half. Well, as you guys can see, this weekend was absolutely insane when it came to all these upsets and all of these near upsets. What was your favorite game from the weekend? Also, what do you think this means for the college football playoff rankings moving forward? Whatever your thoughts are on this insane weekend, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting college football videos all season long, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that confusing YouTube algorithm that nobody understands, but it does help share this video and my channel with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you all in my next video.